Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video. And today's video we are here once again to discuss the week that was for this football club that somehow, some way took us up to Loch Lomand, dipping and paddling about in the water. Honestly, this football club's going to break me one of these days, and it's edging closer and closer. But not only are we here to break down the latest Rangers news, we obviously have a massive game of football, a game that was already going to be big no matter the circumstances or how the season was gone. But where we are right now with the fans feeling this way and pressure and protest, this game right here in terms of a cup competition doesn't get much bigger and could drastically change our season one way or the other. You would dare to say it's sink or swim for Russell Martin's men, but they've already done that this week. Moving on, though, however, before we get to the latest Rangers news, obviously we have a big distraction ahead of us for the next 10 to 11 minutes, and that is, of course, tomorrow's dance partner. And you know what we do by now? It's time to dive into the oppositional preview and get an update on Hibs. Now Hibs at my current time of recording sit third in the SPFL, currently undefeated in the league, and I'll just be honest, spoiler alert for the next couple minutes, this is probably one of the most exciting, entertaining sides I've had to look at for a very long time, especially when it comes to an oppositional preview in terms of Scottish football. You know, when we've done this a long time, me and thee, sometimes it's a bit of a slog to sit there and watch game after game, highlight after highlight, presser after presser, but truthfully the way Hibs have been playing this season and some of the results, some of the goals, some of the drama and some of the heartache has honestly made this a wee bit refreshing. And if they could take all of that and sprinkle in a wee cup disappointment in terms of getting knocked out the hand of Rangers, it'd be a perfect start to the season, and I would be very grateful. But getting to the domestic side, again, we talked about third in the league, undefeated. What does that look like in the winning games? Are they firing in all cylinders? Well, it is interesting to break down because they've actually only won once so far in the league, with 3 other draws, the 3 following draws from the opening day win versus Dundee. And naturally on paper you'd sit and glance at that and be like, well, that's a pretty poor start to the season. But also their circumstances they've found themselves in regarding European football has actually made some of the results they've been able to get from the European journeys, from the European heartache, pretty damn impressive, especially when you look at them going forward, ladies and gentlemen, as they have once again scored more goals than us. They've scored more than double of us this season. Thank you, Russell, Kenneth, Alexander, Martin. Hibs sit there with more goals scored and more than double the goals. In fact, they've scored the same amount of goals as league leaders Celtic have in the league. The big main difference in the Achilles heel of this Hibernian side all season long. The has been scoring goals, the has been creating chances, it's been playing entertaining football, has been that back line as they have been stung time and time again. And where we talked about they had scored the same amount of goals as league leader Celtic, they've conceded 7 more goals, and that is the difference, and that's why they're drawing points. But to just sit here and break down the league form and how they've been playing domestically would be very disingenuous to the Hibs team, and I think to everyone tuning in to today's video, as there's a major part of the puzzle that would be missing. So let's go ahead and bring that in, and let's talk about these European footballs, as Hibs weren't in it very long, but by God did they make a bit of an impact. And where Scottish teams usually just glance at, but oh my God, they've been battered. How many? Who by? Where's that team? Faye? Hibs have actually had nearly the exact opposites. They started off the Europa League qualifying campaign with the toughest draw they could have possibly had versus Midtjylland. We know them very familiar. We're very up and down with them. We've scored a lot of goals, but we know they're a good side, and everyone was expecting Midtjylland to absolutely slap Hibs, and that didn't happen, ladies and gentlemen, as Hibs went away from home over to Denmark and had an absolute incredible result, grabbing a 1-1, which was a brilliant take to take that back to Edinburgh with an opportunity at home under the Edinburgh lights to shock the European stage again and make it to the next round of qualification. Now we all know how that ended up playing out, and we all expected Hibs to, dare I say, go ahead and Hibs it, but the way they went and Hibs it is almost cruel in a way, ladies and gentlemen, as yes, on paper it says they conceded a 119th minute goal to knock them out in the Europa League, but that truly doesn't tell you the tale, as the goal that knocked them out in the 119th minute was an absolute screamer of an overheat kick, where honestly I thought that'd be the best goal I would see when talking about or breaking down a Hibs team. I said, right, that's it, that's about as good as gonna get. But believe it or not, I was wrong. Before we get there, however, there's a couple steps we need to take. First off is they went away to Partizan Belgrade. Again, not fancied, and somehow, some way, away from him, grabbed an even more impressive performances. This time it wasn't a draw. They went ahead and won that game 2-0 thanks to a dirty double for the always dangerous, I should say, Martin Boyle. And then you're looking at their next game just a couple days later, European hangover. If you look at it, they were 2-0 up versus Kilmarnock within 30 minutes here. Just beat Partizan. Now they're 2-0 up after 30 minutes. They're absolutely cooking. They're scoring goals for fun. This Hibs side's really, really dangerous. Well, their Achilles heels came back to haunt them at Rugby Park as they went ahead and threw away the 2-0 lead and ended up drawing the game of football. And the exact same feeling and the exact same vibe happened as it went ahead and happened just a couple days later after having that incredible 2-0 advantage due to the away performance. Again, on their home soil, they threw it all away as they threw their 2-0 advantage in the bin, and it was all set up to be on an even keel, and it needed something special to break the deadlock as Partizan was feeling good about themselves and Hibs were licking their wounds. Up steps Bowie, who goes ahead and scores, dare I say, the goal of the season, and I would probably say it's the best goal I've ever seen Hibs score, if I'm honest with you. It's absolutely ridiculous, and even though I sit here as a Rangers fan, I need to hold my hands up and say that is outrageous, and I would love to see just a resemblance of that attacking freedom that somebody can hit a volley or about 40 yards out instead of passing it back. Your centre backs are sitting there passing the football, but I'm actually watching a centre forward glance up and see a goalie off his line hitting a volley for 40 yards out. It must be nice to see such attacking football. But you know how this goes, Hibs love to Hibs it. They went ahead and conceded a goal not only in the 93rd minute to put it the extra time, they then went ahead and conceded a 98th minute goal to knock themselves out of European football. As good as they are going forward with the creativity and the attacking and all the goals they scored, they probably deserve to qualify to the next round. That back door is absolutely rotten, and it once again was the team's Achilles heel as their European curtain came down. And who knows, maybe they did learn something for their European disappointments, as in back-to-back domestic games of football, they were the ones to score the late goals rather than going ahead and conceding it. So maybe there has been a passing of the torch that way, but again, ladies and gentlemen, that is how they look right now. Attacking wise, brilliant. Defensively, there's questions that should be asked if we've got anything at all about us, but again, that's been a question we've had for our fan base and for our team all season long. What you would say, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the cup competition, Hibs have saved annoyingly their best overall complete performance for the previous round in this competition, as they kept the back door shut for the first time this season with a brilliant 2-0 win performance away at the Tony Macaroni. What can always be difficult to play against that Livy side, but Hibs were brilliant in the last round of this competition. Please don't have me sitting here in the next 24 hours saying that again. But honestly, ladies and gentlemen, it's maybe a familiar Hibs side in terms of on paper when you sit and glance at some of the names, but again, the familiarity doesn't weaken anybody they've really got. Martin Boyle is built to almost play against Rangers, and never mind what we're doing this season in terms of an even higher line, that's just playing directly into the hands in Martin Boyle's pace. Whether he is as the 9 or if he's glancing out to the right hand side, I imagine he's going to lick his lips and run beyond that back line, and I imagine Hibs, one pass into the 6, maybe back to the defence, and that long ball to Boyle. That's what they've been doing quite a lot, and it was very effective in European football. So I imagine they'll try and target Rangers, suck them in, and then hit that long ball. But again, where Martin Boyle is always frustrating, I've been really impressed by the likes of Bowie, who not only scored a great goal, but he's been scoring other good goals, and he just looks like the type of player that's not going to be there long. And that's not me taking a dig at Hibs or taking a dig at anybody. It's actually a real compliment, as every time you watch the kid, he does stand out. He's just got that natural finishing instinct which you can't really be taught. And he scored the spectacular, but you can also score the mundane, and that's a pretty damn impressive thing to have as a young centre forward. Not only to be a scorer of great goals, but being a great goal scorer. That's always a very fine line, and the kid looks like he's going to tip in that direction, so he could be one that is for the old future. But again, their team's just built with quality players. I just glance and I'm like, yeah, he's built for Scottish football, yeah, he's built for Scottish football, and that's why they're always a pain in the jacks. The likes of Jamie McGrath, who obviously we mentioned he scored a penalty kicks, built for Scottish football. He knows he's been a pain throughout every club that he's went ahead played for. And the likes of Josh Mulligan was a sensational pick-up again by Hibs. He was gift-wrapped at Rangers. He was waiting to sign for Rangers. All he wanted was the final single, but we wave goodbye, take off, and we rip all the plans up, and we go ahead and sign English Championship jobbers for a hell of a lot of money, rather than the guys that can actually help this team and buy in and give us what we've not got in Scottish football, and that's players that relish the battle each and every single time. I just glance at the transfer business, like, smart bid, smart there. Again, I'm not saying every single one of them would make it around. I'm not saying that at all, but they're a Scottish team, and do you know what they've done? They've built a team for Scottish football. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's me done and dusty talking about this Hibs team. We know their threat, we know where it's come from, and we know they're a team that can score goals. It's just going to be about whether we turn up from an attacking perspective and finally ask some questions. But moving away from the Hibs perspective, let's go ahead and get to the Rangers one. And can we just address the painful elephant in the room? I've had to just spend about 10 minutes or so praising and talking about a Hibs team that plays attacking, exciting football, troops, whilst being a Rangers fan sitting starved of any resemblance of exciting or attacking or entertaining football. Barring our first 45 minutes versus Victoria Paizen earlier on in the season, the rest of this campaign from a Rangers team performance perspective has been absolutely shocking to watch. And this preview just underlines and highlights again just how far off the ball we actually are, as we're yet again talking about another team for Scottish football that does one thing better than us, or does something, or has something we've no go. And look, I'm not one to sit here and sound like Veruca Salt for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but when you take everything into consideration, surely we should be having all of that. Why in Scottish football teams more organised than us? Why in Scottish football, especially the two Edinburgh sides, are teams just absolutely salting and peppering the goal whilst we sit terrified passing the ball side to side at our halfway line? Why are we drastically getting outscored by both Edinburgh clubs, more than double so far this season? Why is that a case? And why, more importantly, do we seem like we are miles away from playing the type of attacking, breathless football teams in Scottish football with a fraction of our budget is able to put a product on the park? And why is the motif not to go that route or tweak or change the system? It's to try and take our players and squash them doing to fit this boring, lifeless motif of football, possession for possession's sake. There's just so many questions that burns round and round and round again in terms of this grey noggin that I wish I had the answers for. You know what I mean? For doing this channel, when I look in at these teams, the Hearts and the Hibs and everything like that, when I sit and glance at Hibs in the 90th minute having 4 or 5 players in the box, including their two centre-halves, chucking balls in because they're chasing winners, whilst I have to sit and watch my team that wants to win every game, is expected to win every game, every bumper sticker stuff they say prior to the game. I'm watching one striker in the box and everyone else sitting outside it doing tippy-tappy football. It's absolutely grinding the gears up here to look at. And again, none of it makes sense, but maybe, just maybe, it's fitting we've reached this point, as we mentioned earlier on in the video, because a cup game is a one and done scenario. That is the old saying, and that's how I feel like we've reached the point in terms of our season, and where I feel like we've reached it in terms of Russell Martin, is I believe even the likes of Solomon Grundy couldn't survive an exit or a beat tomorrow versus Hibs. But see, if we're being actually brutally honest and throwing all our cards on the table, is there many examples of on the park of why we should beat Hibs and why Hibs shouldn't be favourite versus Rangers? Again, off the park, you look at finances and all this stuff, absolutely, but as soon as you start looking at the product on the park, have we done anything to suggest that we should be going in and winning this game comfortably? Nah, ladies and gentlemen, for me, that's the biggest, brightest warning sign you could ever have with anything associated with Rangers Football Club, from fan to staff to board members. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to be very, very careful how far we allow our standards to fall and how far we get away from where we want to be, because if we start accepting we're second best here, there and everywhere, then the whole thing's done. But aye, let's move on then, shall we, and talk about the week that was. As obviously everyone's already seen the news, as it's certainly made a splash you would say, as Russell Martin has doubled down on his entire motif of it being up here and it being the players' fault. No tactical, no need to work on set pieces, no need of that, you know, coaching stuff. He thinks it's all up here, and he took the players up to Loch Lomond to go ahead and paddle and stand in the water so they could quote unquote hurt together. Now, again, I'm going to try to be nice here, understand what he's trying to do or what he's trying to say, but trying to put them in the water to hurt together seems like a bit of a backward step, because all we've done all season, Russell, is hurt together watching this standard of football. So that reasoning doesn't make sense to me. And look, I never said in the harm when the stuff hit social media. I'd heard about it prior to it going online, then I seen it online. I just sort of glanced at it. It's like, am I getting punked here? You know what I mean? Where's Ashton Kutcher with the wee camera coming out here to tell me this is an entire made up situation and it's completely manufactured to push me to the very, very brink? But again, where people looked at it as maybe it's this or maybe it's this, for me, and it's just the way I saw it, it's Russell Martin having complete and utter tunnel vision based on what we spoke about in our last video, that he's taken none of the blame is on Russell. It's the players are not all in. It's the players that need to get together. It's the players that are the problem, and that's the biggest worry to me, is there's still not a resemblance of self-reflection from this man, or to realise that maybe there does need to be a tweak, or maybe there needs to be a change in the system. I mean, you've got the likes of Joe Rothwell on Instagram liking posts continually saying he's getting played wrong and out of position. You know what I mean? There's the players. He'll be the next one kicked to the side. You know what I mean? Welcome back, Raskin. Get out, Joe Rothwell. So what? How dare you try and play in your best position and maybe voice your concerns that you're not getting used properly? Get in the water. Let's all go for a swim, because it's all your fault. It's a real worry to me, ladies and gentlemen. But again, as a Rangers fan, all I've got to know is hope, because there's not much else we can actually look at in terms of performances or this or building up towards something. So I sincerely hope with every fibre in my being the little splash in the loch is enough to wake this team up for their lifeless, sleepwalking performances, and somehow, some way, get them in line with whatever Russell Martin is trying to build in a Rangers team. But that's my thoughts on it. It's just, it's mere worrying signs that Russell Martin again still thinks it's just all on the players rather than the tactics that's getting put in the system and shape that players are getting asked to go ahead and play. And this click that happens at every single Russell Martin team that he's managed, where they do go on a run, for me, it needs to happen within the next 24 hours, and it needs to happen in this game versus Hibernian, because we can't be beat or knocked out every single competition by mid-September, barring obviously the cup competition that happens later on in the year. But you know exactly what I'm talking about. We can't sink this low just a couple months into the season and happy clap it and be excited about it. But moving away from all that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get to some good news then, shall we? And sorry again, I've probably been pretty negative or frustrated in today's video, but there is just so much frustration, there is so much questions that need to be asked. One of the positives is obviously Raskin coming back into the setup, which is brilliant. Hopefully he does get back into the starting 11. Hopefully he can start playing games of football. Am I expecting him to drastically fix everything? No, I'm no, ladies and gentlemen. I've never thought that, because he was also here at the start of the season when things weren't going great, but where from an optics point of view, having your best player and your highest value player sitting in the stand or sitting in the house is only going to hurt this club. Him being in and amongst it and being able to play football at least keeps his value at whatever it is that Russell Martin's chiselled it down to so far. So good luck to Raskin, and again, good luck to this Rangers team going forward. We've talked about how good this team or this opposition is at going forward. Defensively, they've been really, really poor and conceded some shocking goals. Surely this is the game. If we've got any type of attacking motif at all, it gets put into place. The more is this team that is acceptable to conceding daft goals. We're going to ask them some questions. Didn't he just sit there and pass it side to side to side to side for 40 minutes? Go forward, put the ball in the box and have this defence going back the way, because when the day, it usually ends up in a goal. And that's honestly how I feel. I'm sorry if it's a wee bit a mess around the Rangers perspective, but there is so much frustration there. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down there, how you feel about Martin. Can he turn around if he gets a result? Do you think he will get a result? And honestly, if you are still watching, who do you believe's favourites to win this game? I think when you ask that question, you look at everything and put it in context, it makes it scarier how bad this season has actually been. But again, I'll always back the team, I'll always sing the songs, and I will always be with my club, so I will back them to win. This game, it's going to be scrappy, it's going to be ugly, it's going to be one or the other, but I will take a cheeky 2-1, a cheeky channel favourite, and just hope Big Bojan gets off to the mark and hope some attacking perspective is put into place. Because again, I didn't want to sit here tomorrow night and say he's got to be sacked or he's got to go now, or anything. I didn't want to say that. Just get us a win and get us in to a semi-final and get this club at least moving a resemblance going forward. That would be great. But that's me done and dusted. Let me know your opinions down there in the old comment section below. As always, shout out the legends that are signed up to the channel legend memberships. We greatly appreciate your support, as we do those that are signed up to the support range. It's far too kind. And to each and every single person that is currently watching today's video and is helping push us towards 70k, by the way, which is terrifying to think about. Thank you all so much for spending another day with me. I'll see you tomorrow after the game. And as always, thank you so much for watching. All the best and bye-bye.